Welcome to the Local Marketing Source Weekly Update, brought to you by localmarketingsource.com.
This week's Local Marketing Update is brought to you by Scott Gallagher. Scott is the co-founder of Local Marketing Source and has become the recognized expert in providing online marketing services to local businesses. Follow Scott on Twitter at ScottGallagher5 and on Facebook.com/Scott P. Gallagher.
Hey, well, good afternoon, everyone. Scott Gallagher here with Local Marketing Source, bringing our weekly local marketing industry update. Now, next week's LMS member call is going to be Wednesday, September 2nd at 4 p.m. Eastern. And don't forget to subscribe to our weekly podcast as well as our subscription on YouTube channel. Now, this week, we've got a few different things to talk about, and there's a couple of different studies that are out that I want to digress and get into and separate and talk a little bit about, but as well as a design ranking factor that is in the news lately, and that's responsive design, and specifically what that is and how you can get your website up to there and how it's going to affect your position in search. So first off, the first study we're going to talk about is the local pack that is showing up in the #1 spot, a lot more than it has been. And the second study is businesses and how consumers are interacting with businesses that have low ratings. All right. So the new local pack, this is that new 3-pack that is showing up for local searches. And we've seen some changes as we've been seeing over the years. The most recent changes is that Google went to a 3-pack where they were showing the 7-pack before and different variances of number of businesses. And they got rid of 4 of those spots and left the 3-pack. But what the bigger change might be is the number of times that the local pack is showing up in local searches. Now, I don't know if this number was accurate, but this is the public number that is being discussed, that it used to show up 25% of the time. And now, that was the 7-pack. Now with the 3-pack, it is showing up 93% of the time. And what's even more interesting is that 99% of the time, you're going to see it in the top 2 spots. So 93% of the time, you see it in the #1 spot, 99%. Now, what this tells me, after all the changes that we've seen with Google, is Google's confidence level has increased in regards to their local pack, in regards to the data that they have for their businesses. They are now showing this the majority of the time. They're showing it at the top. And we know that click-through rates have clearly, between spot #1, 2, and 3, were significantly higher than spot #4. So this is a very natural move based off of data that we've known in the SEO marketplace. Google has finally put that into place, and it makes sense. This is going to be a longer-term stability. I've always said that if we're going to get a client ranked, they've got to be in the top 3 spots anyhow. Spot #4, you're out of the game. So that doesn't change any of our methodology, and the fact that this is showing up 99% of the time is only going to bring our clients more exposure for the same activity that existed. This, to me, I think is a fantastic change. There's a lot of hoopla in the industry in regards to it, but it is definitely across the board in terms of the results of what's showing up, and I think, like I say, this is great. Now, speaking of ranking and different ranking factors, a discussion within our industry that's rather hot right now is responsive designs. And what a responsive design is a website that is not static. It changes dynamically based on the display device. So whether it is a computer or a mobile tablet or a phone or even a television or even upcoming screens inside of automobiles, that website is going to be responsive based off that display. In other words, it's going to change where the navigation buttons work. It's going to place the images in different spots and essentially, you don't have to scroll left to right on a website, even if you're holding your phone in the vertical mount. There's not a lot of space horizontally. Well, a responsive website is going to change the position of content to adhere to that. Google has been explicit that that is their preferred method to handle mobile. And so the question has become, is this a factor in ranking? Well, it's easy to assume that it likely is, and based off of everything that we've seen. But there's a couple of things that Google has said, and coming directly from Google, to quote, it says, Google often jokes that they will forgive a site for bad HTML, but it won't forgive sites that waste their resources. So we know that age of a website is a factor. We can probably assume, based off of that a comment, that they correlate age with responsive design. So if a website has been present and perhaps quote unquote grandfathered in, they may not lose rankings. But if a new website in the last 2 years is up on the internet and it does not have a responsive design, it is probably likely to be ranked lower than a site that had been potentially grandfathered in. But nonetheless, I think it is clear when Google says, we, Google, highly recommend using responsive web design. And then it goes into a list of 6 different ways using responsive web design saves Google a lot of resources, how it delivers them, improved user experiences, and it avoids different SEO pitfalls like bad redirects and fragmented link presence. So this is directly from Google. You take it for what it's worth with a grain of salt. But like I've been saying for quite some time, this is definitely a factor in ranking. I think within the next 4 weeks, we're going to see studies that definitely prove this theory, but I think there's more than enough evidence to come to a very educated conclusion that this is a major factor in ranking, to the point where my clients that don't have a responsive website need one. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to deliver the service that I want to deliver. We're doing conversions. We can take an existing website on average of 15 pages, and I can still make a decent profit by converting that website from pretty much any type of old school HTML to new HTML5 with a content management system, utilizing WordPress and a responsive design theme that has the same look and feel of their existing website. And we can make a good 40 to 50% margin on that by charging $1,000. And the benefits for a website, that's about 1/3 of the price of a website. And the benefits is that the client A is going to have a CMS that they can add and remove content for updates a lot easier. And B, of course, they'll have the responsive design. Now, for clients that have been with us for quite some time, or perhaps clients that are in a contract, that's also something you may want to consider. Because if it's only $1,000, that's that's if that client's going to be with you for 6 months, a year, 2 years, what's a $1,000 service that you've included into the existing service so you get the potential results? That's also something else that you should probably be considering with all of your clients. Now, finally, this study here has got a variety of different data, and it relates to consumers and customers, their interaction and their engagement with businesses that have a variety of different review ratings. These are respondents. They've got a sample size of 2,300 that come from the United States and Canada. 10% are Canada, so that's leaving us with about 1,900 respondents in the United States. To have a statistical, from my old statistic classes, as long as you've got regardless of your population size, if you've got a sample size of 1,100, that's enough of a sample size, regardless of the population size, to have a statistical margin of error with 3% or less. So they definitely have, provided that their respondents are 100% random, which they're unlikely not, which will skew some of the data. But my point is this data is pretty accurate based off this study, from what I can conclude. And when consumers are searching for businesses, they say that 92% of consumers, or consumers 92% of the time, will read local reviews for a local business. But that's a group as a whole, where a third of those people, so 1/3 of buyers, are always going to read a review. 2/3, while 60% now occasionally read reviews, and it's only 8% of buyers never read reviews. So knowing that 92% do read reviews occasionally or regularly to make a decision is a number that definitely, if we're marketers for a business and reviews are a significant factor in conversion, it significantly impacts the perception of our performance as internet marketers. So because of that, reviews are a very, very important piece for you to have. And if you don't have anything in place to track reviews for your clients, you'll want to do that. You'll want to get that in place and review the reviews once a week and read them. And you'll be amazed at the information that comes out from these reviews, what you can learn about a business. And you as a marketer are put into a position that you've got to go to the business owner and say, I've got to make a recommendation for you to change how you do business because of these readings. It's really, really that important now. Getting some more data to support some of this. We know that roughly 50% of searches are done on a computer, and 75% of searches that are done on a computer, the reviews are always read. So they're read more on desktop searches than they are on mobile searches. Well, that kind of makes sense. And where this is a part of the study that I've really got to start to question. Before I can come to any conclusions, I need a greater amount of data, because the types of businesses that consumers are doing searches on mobile devices are different than the types of businesses that they're doing on desktops. 65% of all searches for my taxi client are done on a mobile device, but only 30% for my dental client, for example, are done on a mobile device. So that's important to know, depending on the type of business that you're dealing with, as to positioning, for example, of where these reviews perhaps are going to be displayed on a particular website to help that conversion. We know that we want them on the front page somehow. We know we want to showcase some of the hero reviews, but essentially understanding what type of business you've got. And so knowing that, for a taxi company, for example, the most relevant information that's going to pop up at the top of a website for a mobile search, you're going to have the reviews, or I would recommend having the reviews further down the page in terms of conversion, just based off this data. And for a dentist, based off of science here that we're looking at, it's clear that consumers want that information. It's more important to them as a patient of a dentist than it is for a customer of a taxi company. Now, understanding how consumers consume certain reviews and how many reviews that they read is also important, because we can influence review filters. We know that we've got the ability as marketers to influence these filters. And just like rankings, reviews also have ranking filters that we know of, and we've studied those ranking filters. And we know that reviews are also prioritized. So when we can work with a client to identify hero clients to get top reviews showing up, we want to know how consumers are interacting with these particular reviews. And 40% of consumers form an opinion by reading 1 to 3 reviews, where almost 80% form an opinion by reading 1 to 6 reviews. Well, that kind of makes sense. You think of the local pack within Google and how reviews are showing up in Yelp and whatnot. We don't need any more than 7 reviews. And when we're looking at the review count and the highest priority reviews, when we're looking among all sites and what Google's showing, we're really focusing on 7. But really, you put the majority of your efforts into focusing on those top 3. And if you can get positive reviews in the top 3, regardless of what the negative reviews are, who cares if they're down the page? And so we can influence that and work on those reviews for a client. And that, again, it's arguable that the review ranking is a major factor in ranking for the SERPs, but it is definitely a factor. But more importantly than ranking are reviews of how it influences conversion. And that's why it's, again, important for you as an internet marketer and SEO expert to spend your time and effort into optimizing conversion. It's not that difficult with local businesses. So we've talked about different elements of conversion today with dynamic websites and how consumers interact with reviews. And I find understanding the marketing aspects of consumers and how consumers react will not really give us a lot of insight. It's almost like it gives us foresight into the future of how the algorithm is going to change, in my opinion. I think that the search engines, again, are just ultimately trying to replicate what marketing has been teaching us for quite some time. Now, one of the last things I want to talk about is consumers' interaction of reviews and their trust towards particular reviews. We know that perception is reality. And we know that we're going to trust a friend's opinion over an online review, but how much do we trust? How can we measure the trust value? And so within this study, this was actually done by Bright Local, which is one of my favorite tools that we utilize. And they indicated that 80% of consumers trust online reviews as much as personal recommendations. That's kind of mind-blowing. But I do think its authenticity is accurate. And the number has been going up year over year, that consumers seem to be trusting online reviews more and more. So that's going to come to the conclusion of this week's update. I'm just going to take a moment here, go grab a drink of water, and I see that when I started out, wow, we had a lot of people that showed up late. I'm not sure at what point in time you guys came into the call. Well, we just seem to have almost everybody that's been registered has made today's call. That's good. And yeah, well, we look for 20 minutes, and here we are right at 20 minutes. So hopefully you guys didn't miss too much. But I'm just going to take 30 seconds right now, and I'll be right back and answer any questions that you might have.
Well, thanks for watching the Local Marketing Industry Update. We've got these things coming out every single week. So if you liked with what you heard, just click the button right above me right here to subscribe to our channel. If you'd like to get a little bit more, right over here, go check out localmarketingsource.com. We've got free reports that you can grab. You can even register for a free marketing course to get in and see the portal. Or just go ahead and follow us on some of the social channels. We'll be around. Until next time.